Mr. Stephen Waguespack is the president and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Hey, Mr. Stephen. Hey, Wags. How you been, man? Welcome back to KEEL.
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Well, Erin and I were talking earlier this hour, and she says there's been chaos, a word you used in your op-ed on the hayride. There's been chaos in Baton Rouge for a couple of years. Why haven't they done something? And I said,
I'm not sure it matters anymore. I'm sorry, we got a solution now, so it doesn't even matter anymore. We're going to take those bees y'all were talking about, bring them down to the Capitol. We'll finally flush these guys out. They'll stop calling special sessions. Everything will be fine.
Oh, now, that's an interesting little segue there, because you seem to think that we, Louisianans, are most likely at the end of this session going to get stung with some kind of new tax. What do you think's going to happen?
I like where you're going there. Yeah, no, guys, I'm sorry to get us off on the front, but I mean, we're going into our sixth special session over the last 2.5 years, starting today. We walk into that session with no budget, with no real plan for what taxes are going to be raised, with no real spending reduction items on the agenda call, with no consensus on whether they need to raise $0 or $650 million. And that all has to be completed in 2 weeks. And so you got a weary, frustrated Capitol that's going to try to accomplish all that in 2 weeks. And so we expect a pretty bumpy ride.
So if nobody could solve anything in 2 years, what makes the governor or anybody else thinks that 14 days will solve the difficulty?
I think what the whole angle has been to ramp up pressure to make it a big pressure cooker in there. That's why he sent the letters out to the 37,000 nursing home residents to try to create pressure. That's why he's got press conferences across the state, talking about doomsday scenarios to create pressure. You have the July 1 budget deadline looming over everyone. So I think that his plan the whole time has been keep squeezing, keep squeezing, keep squeezing. Now we're at the end date. Maybe that'll be a way they'll force folks to get it done.
It's a big chicken game, huh?
Well, I think that's a big piece of it. I think the other thing is, we're still – this is the new era of legislatures and governors and how they, get along. In Louisiana for decades, everyone was Democrat, so everyone just kind of appointed 2 or 3 people to go into a dark room and come out with a plan, and everyone rubber stamped it. Well, those days are done. And now is the era of different ideas, different solutions, different debates, and, that's the new process. I think the governor's frustrated with that, but this is reality. And so now we got to figure out how we listen to everyone's perspective, not just, the couple folks at the top.
Stephen Waguespack with Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Let me ask you this. This is where my head wants to explode. 2 years ago, we were sold this bill of goods of these temporary taxes, and we're going to restructure things and fix things, and we'll be good, and these taxes will come off the books July 1, 2018, and we will be in a much better position. Well, it's not done, Stephen. What have they done for 2 years, Wags?
Well, I mean, look, they kicked the same old ideas around the schoolyard for 2 years, but when it comes down to making the tough decisions, there's always a punt. And look, everyone's guilty of it. You can't just look to the tax code to create a permanent solution. You got to reform pensions. You got to reform Medicaid. You got to reform these little bureaucratic boards and commissions that have these fee structures. You got to reduce the size of government. You've got to put some percentage reductions on agencies and force them to make compliance. You've got to shift the state and local balance and push more of the autonomy to local and stop subsidizing local government. You have to do all those things to make a balanced approach to this. And then all that stuff, when it came up the last couple of years, died.
Have we downsized government at all? Have we downsized government at all in 2 years?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to the administration, I think their latest number is 400 or 600 million. I don't see it. The budget is larger today than it was in the past. So I don't know how you can say that's a reduction, but that's what you'll hear. I'm sure Jay will be on here pretty soon saying the same thing. But no, I mean, government's going up. By the time this session's done, we'll be just around $30 billion on a budget, which makes us the highest per capita spender in the South. We're spinning through the nose to get things done.
Would we have been better off? Would the state be better off should John Bell have signed the budget that he vetoed on Friday?
I think so. I think what that would have done is, one, when you create that concern and crisis with those nursing home residents, and you send those letters saying you are in jeopardy, and then when 72 hours later the Senate revises the budget to solve that problem, and then 72 hours after that you veto that budget, That doesn't make sense to me. Don't create the crisis if the solution is then vetoed. Don't just go around the Capitol pulling fire alarms and then push away all the buckets of water everyone gives you. That's not fair. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, if they just signed that, then we would have known what the true delta was left. We could have gone into this session and said, okay, the shortfall is in TOPS, the shortfall is in higher ed, we need a little bit there, a little bit here. Then you can put together a responsible plan. But now you got to start a $30 billion from scratch, discussion. Very complicated in 2 weeks.
Let me quote a very wise man by the name of Stephen Waguespack, who writes, new sales taxes of some variety seem likely to happen at this session, and we, the LABI, will work in good faith to help policymakers through the process. Explain to me what you're going to be doing over the next week to 10 days.
Trying our best to make chicken salad out of you-know-what. Because the reality is, when it comes to whatever their solution is, sales tax is, very much likely where they're going to go, because it's light switch money. As soon as you pass it, it flows. As soon as you kill it, it turns off. And so they need that type of solution if they're going to have anything revenue-wise. And so we're going to be talking to them the whole time. Look, certain things you can't tax if you want our economy to grow. Manufacturing machinery, equipment, business utilities, other manufacturing inputs. There are certain things in there that if you tax it, you're going to chase away jobs. And so we'll be trying to alert them to that as they move forward.
Wags, Jay Darden told us yesterday that the taxes lawmakers pass during this special session need to be permanent. No more of this play in this temporary game. Would you agree?
I don't know. I mean, I'm of the mindset that we should not make something permanent unless we're convinced it's good policy. And I don't think anyone would be convinced that we're going to get good policy out of these 2 weeks. And so I would say make it temporary if you're, again, building to something real. Now, we tried that a couple of years ago, and nothing happened. My position, constitutional convention. If you're going to put a temporary bridge to a convention being complete, I think that's the right way to go. And that way we can make sure that we have the convention come in, revise our document, give us a new set of rules to live by. That's a good way to have a temporary bridge.
Stephen Waguespack, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.